Dillerga'dan gece geçtim, suyundan içtim. Badem gözlü bir yar gördüm, kendimden geçtim. Sensin benim canım, tatlı sevgilim. Sensin benim canım, tatlı sevgilim. Sen gönlümde açan festikan çiçeğim. Sen gönlümde açan festikan çiçeğim. Birine bakar bakar dururum. İnce giymiş üstüne gül gül o güleri savurum. Birilerine bakar bakar dururum. İnce giymiş üstüne gül gül o güleri savurum. Berber dükkanı açmadım. Berber dükkanı açmadım. Ayna sıra lira saçmadım. Ayna sıra lira saçmadım. Limos'un yolları, daracık sokakları, dalgalı deniz gibi o güzelim saçları. Dilleri destan oldu benim hallerim. Oy lefkelim lefkelim. Aşkından oldum deli. Kahve içtim telveri, aklımdan ettin beni. Çok uzaklardan geldim, bir kez göreyim seni. Çok uzaklardan geldim, bir kez göreyim seni. Portakal atışalım, beraber kapışalım. Portakal atışalım, beraber kapışalım. Sen oradan gel, ben buradan, Kıbrıs'ta buluşalım. Sen oradan gel, ben buradan, Kıbrıs'ta buluşalım. Ata binesim geldi, çaydan içesim geldi. Kara gözlü yarimi şimdi göresim geldi. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım. Aman aman canım, sana kaynadı kanım.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our very, a very special show, I should say. It's a COVID-19 special show. Hopefully, it's a one-off that me and Hasan do in terms of this virus. I hope it goes away and never comes back. We don't ever have to do this again. But we thought we'll do a very special show for you with very, very special guests, experts in their fields that can join us to give you the best advice possible around COVID-19, government funding, and how the government is helping everybody. And myself and Hasan wanted to get that information out to you as soon as possible. Just a quick disclaimer before we start, and that is any advice you are given today, obviously it's done, everyone has their own personal merits. This is not official legal advice. It's not official financial advice. Everyone has their own personal circumstances. So I just wanted to put that disclaimer at the beginning. So after this show, if you have any more questions, obviously go and seek your own personal advice, because your cases are very much different. Apart from that, I think we are set to get our guests in. I think that's everything covered in terms of introductions. Obviously, I'm Serkan, and Hasan Osman is famous, from who runs the Business Wednesdays of the TCC UK page, who's hosting with me today. And the last thing I want to say, guys, we are going to be speaking in English, and the reason is because we've got a lot of guests that are going to be watching today and watching this back via YouTube and other platforms who are not Turkish. However, what we've agreed is anything you comment in the comments box in Turkish will be answered in Turkish. If you comment in English, then we'll respond in English. Arkadaşlar hoş geldiniz öncelikle. Bu program, özel program COVID-19 için bütün hükümetin size vermiş olduğu yardımların konularını açıyoruz. Çok mühim konular ve sizler için bu konuları yani daha bir net şekilde sizlere vermek istiyoruz. Arkadaşlar İngilizce konuşacağız. Niye İngilizce konuşacağız? Çünkü bazı yabancı arkadaşlarımız var. Türkçe konuşmayanlar. Onlara da güzel bir şekilde bu güzel programı sunalım diye İngilizce konuşacağız. Lakin yorumları Türkçe yazarsanız, sorunuz Türkçe yazılırsa cevabı da Türkçe olacak. İngilizce yazılırsa cevabı da İngilizce olacak. Öyle bir şekilde yapacağız. Yani bütün insanlarımız faydalansın bu programdan. Hasan, hazır mıyız? Are we ready to get our guests on?
I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, okay. We've got very special guests. We've got Mr. Enver Kannur, who is a chartered accountant, and Mr. Gunduz, Misiri, who is a property and commercial lawyer. Welcome, everybody. We'll just unmute their mic so they can speak, and then we'll get them to introduce themselves, starting with Enver abi.
İyi akşamlar. Good evening. I'm a chartered certified accountant. I've been an accountant for the last 30 odd years. We have a practice in Palmer's Green. Also, we have offices in Cyprus, Istanbul, and city St. Paul's. We specialize in small to medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. We have been very active in this last 8 weeks. I don't think I worked so hard in last 8 weeks than I worked in the last 10 years. Because I'll explain in a minute why. Because it's been, the Chancellor has been very good in my view, because he has actually didn't stop and say, okay, this is what we can do, we can't do anything else. He's offered, you go back to him, people go back to him and ask for more. And even today there was an announcement which I'm going to mention. But I'll leave it there, and I'll leave Gunduz Bey to come in and introduce himself.
Thank you, Enver Bey.
Thanks, Enver. Yes, my name's Gunduz. I'm a property solicitor. I work in the commercial and residential department. So I deal with the acquisition and disposal of residential and commercial property. So I act on behalf of landlords, tenants, act for buyers and sellers. And I thought I'll join in this live today to share my knowledge and hopefully assist some of you with any property matters that you might have. And in fact, today's a good day because just today, the government released some guidance on opening the property market. Public Health England have issued some amendments to the health protection regulations, which essentially open up the property market from today, and hopefully that will get us back to where we were prior to lockdown. If you've got any questions in relation to mortgage payments, if you're a landlord or if you're a tenant, and you've got any questions in relation to mortgage payments or rent payments, anything like that, please ask, and then hopefully I'll be able to assist.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Gunduz. Hasan.
Hasan Bey. So everyone may know me from TCC UK, obviously one of the admins, deal with the lives, but I also run a letting agency called EPS Properties based in Cambridge. We solely deal with lettings. And yeah, it's been we've been very fortunate to be able to work through this, but at the same time, it's been very difficult because we're having to deal with a lot of struggles that tenants are having, that landlords are potentially having. So yeah, it's been an eye opener. I will state quickly that I don't think anybody currently alive has ever gone through anything like COVID-19 before. So I think on that basis, there is all we can do is give you what we feel is the best advice, but ultimately it is down to you to seek your own advice and see where it goes from there. So yeah.
Well said, Hasan. Well said. I completely agree. I mean, I've got several questions. Hasan's got a few questions that have been sent in advance that I'll be reading out to the experts shortly. But before we get onto the questions and the questions you guys write in the comments, remember, if you write a question in English, you'll get an English response. And if you write a question in Turkish, the experts will try and give you a Turkish response. And if you don't understand anything, please say and we'll try and clarify it. And before we go on to the questions, we've got several and loads. I just wanted to start with Enver Bey, just to find out and for him to be able to tell everybody, business owners, or people with mortgages, etc., what help is the government providing for people at the moment?
Quite a lot. I think, as Gunduz Bey mentioned, there's been some announcements which I will also dwell on them. But to start with, if you have a business and you employ people, and you can't work, they cannot work, you can send them home and you can ask for 80% of their wages to be paid, capped at £2,500. So what happens is people go home, they cannot work. If they're working, you claim this, and then you claim the 80% plus employer's national insurance contribution, and then basically you pay the tax and the NIC same as before to the government. And that initially that was up to end of. It was extended to end of June. Only yesterday it was extended to end of October.
Right.
There are some rules going to come in after August, but at the moment we don't know what exactly. But so if you can't open, if your business cannot function, then up to end of October, the employees' wages are going to be paid, which basically means that you don't have to sack your shop. So it's your employees, which usually sometimes the biggest cost for anyone, is being met. That's first one. The second one is the self-employed help, and that starts today, accidentally. So from today, started basically what's happening is the HMRC should, if you are self-employed and you are entitled to claim, then the HMRC should have sent you or start sending out text, letters or emails from today, or maybe from probably a few days before, and tells you that you can actually claim as a self-employed. And then you go online and you claim. Unfortunately, accountants are not allowed to claim for their clients, which is a shame, but never mind. The system, the self-employment claim works on last 3 years. So if you have sent in your tax return for 2018 and 19, you must have. If you haven't, you cannot claim. Then they go back 2 more years. So they take 3 years of the self-employed figures up to the maximum of 50,000.
Yep.
And then they will give you if you got maximum 7,500 into your bank account. Now, the only problem here is, I think Hasan will probably know, if you're a landlord and if you got, as a self-employed, you got the buy-to-lets and you got a lot of income as a landlord, unfortunately, if your self-employed income 50% or more is from buy-to-lets or investment income, unfortunately you do not qualify,
Right.
which is a shame. But there's a pressure on Chancellor, and I'm sure he'll come through for those as well.
Okay.
And then obviously, and then we've got the grants, which was based on the rateable value. So up to 15,000, you had £10,000 into your bank account. This is for hospitality sector, obviously. So if you had a restaurant, cafe, takeaway, anything like that, then basically you would have had a grant sent to you directly. If it was between 15,000 and 51,000 rateable value, you would have had £25,000 into your bank account.
Yep.
Unfortunately, because they didn't have bank details, if you were exempt from rates, you had to apply. I've done about 150 of those with a lot of different local authorities. Out of 150, we got 4 that hasn't been paid out yet, and so 3 of them are in London. Unfortunately, most of the out of London ones have already paid, but they are paying. Yeah.
I ask you a question. So, is it limited to how much? I mean, some people can get £25,000, but some people are only being offered £10,000.
It depends on the rateable value.
Okay, right. So it depends on your rateable value. Would depend on how much you're entitled to.
Correct. So if up to 15,000 was £10,000, and anything over 10,000 up to 51,000, then it was, I think it was 51. Let me just check. Yeah, 51,000 pounds. You basically had 25,000 pounds, and
Okay.
that's so. Unfortunately, though, 25,000 pounds came in fast and quick because they had the. If you're paying your rates by direct debit, then they knew they had your bank details and they sent the money in.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
if you're not paying it, then you had to either some authorities ask you to go and do a application online. Some sent forms that you had to fill because they classified who can apply for it, not to have too many applications. But that seems to have worked. About 10 days ago, the chancellor has given extra money to the local authorities at their discretion. So if you are a small charity and you share a building with other people, then that makes it up to the local authority to give you that extra money. So if you haven't received it, do an application because you may now receive it because of subject to the local authorities. Basically, it's up to them. They have to decide who to give to.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then obviously we had the business rates holidays. So if you are in hospitality sector for 2020-21, there shall be no rates. So rates has been scrapped, which gives you quite a good holiday.
Okay.
And if you owe taxes before end of up to 19th of March, any taxes, if it's VAT, it was automatically deferred. If it's PAYE, you must phone and ask for deferment and explain why. But 100%, I've done about, again, 50 of those, no problem. Again, if you are paying self-employed tax, you can actually phone and defer. So there's been a lot of help. And obviously, finally, the big ones is the loans. So initially, we had CBILS, which was up to basically any amount you required. Initially, they came out and the banks were not playing ball. And then the treasurer and the chancellor and everyone just basically put the pressure on them. They still weren't playing ball. And then we were one of 100 accountants which put our name to a signature on Financial Times asking the chancellor to introduce something a lot more simpler. Then what we got, BBLs, bounce back loans.
Yeah.
Now, bounce back loans is up to 50,000. You can only apply to your bank. The interest is 2.5%. It's for 6 years fixed. First 12 months you pay nothing. So after month 13 you start paying. So basically they could keep you going until you start trading. I'm not going to talk about the mortgage holidays and everything else because Gunduz can talk about that.
Of course, I understand.
But I think what I want to say is that this chancellor has actually listened and has come up with a lot of good proposals and it's still coming up. I mean, like today, it was extended to October. Gunduz explained he's going to explain. There was a lot of pressure on the tenants. Then they came in with some more guidance. So I'll leave it there and I'll answer any questions that people want to ask.
Yeah, go on.
Enver,
Hasan,
I've got a question. Sorry, I've got a question for you quickly. So, regarding you said up to a 50k loan, you can get a point. With a repayment of 0.25%. Is it 0.25% or 2.5% APR?
2.5%.
2.5% APR. That is still subject to the bank. Is that right in saying it's subject to the bank? And
no, it's not. It's 100% backed by the treasurer. So,
okay.
So at the moment there's about banks who are qualified to give this out. They've been basically authorized by the British Bank, which is the Bank of England, and there's some conditions. The main condition is you can only apply to your own bank. So if you bank with Barclays, you cannot go and apply to HSBC.
Okay.
But they're amazing. They're amazing and they're very quick to get.
And it has to be to your business bank account, right?
Yes, you must have a business bank account. Yes. If you don't have a business bank account, don't start.
no problems, understand? Just so everyone else understood that.
Yeah,
Well.
of course.
Thank you.
We've got quite a few questions in relation to those little bits and pieces a little bit later. Once we get all the help out there, I just wanted to just go back to Enver Bey very, very quickly, just to clarify a few points, because I'm getting lots of private WhatsApps that are not in the questions later on. The furlough scheme, you said, is 80% of your wages you get as part of the government. Is that the furlough scheme he's referring to?
Yes, that's the furlough scheme. Yes.
Okay.
So it's 80%. 80% capped at 2,500 maximum.
Okay, for example, if your employees maybe, or if you work as a part-time person that do very minimal hours a week, what is your entitlement then?
Then they will take an average of your last 12 months earnings and apply 80%.
Even if you're part-time?
Yes, even if you are part-time.
Okay, that's really good to know. And with regards to the self-employed scheme that you was talking about when you first started your opening in terms of the help, is it you said it's for self-employed people only? So say Joe Bloggs is a minicab driver for driving around, so that will be benefit for those sort of people, or would
Of course.
would it also benefit people that own a small hairdressers that is not limited company and it's just
Yes.
sole trader?
Yes. So if somebody is a sole trader, they have they are basically traded as a sole trader, self-employed. Then that's what it is. But if you're a company director, it doesn't apply to you.
Okay, so so you can use it for sole traders as well as self-employed, because a lot of people think because it's self-employed, it refers to those people that just sort of do their own accounts. But if you are a business and you're a sole trader and not a limited company, you'll be entitled to that help. That's really, really helpful.
I mean, if you're a plumber, electrician that's working for for yourself, you're a self-employed sole trader. If you're a builder, sole trader.
Yeah.
If you own, some people prefer to work as a sole trader instead of a company. So this is a scheme that came in for them. It came late, unfortunately, but it's here now and it started today.
Excellent. That's really good to know. And just going over to Gunduz Bey, what sort of help is out there in terms of the property market and mortgages, etc., etc.?
Yeah, in respect of residential mortgages on your main home and also buy-to-let properties, the government have issued guidance to all major lenders that they are obliged to give you a 3-month mortgage holiday. And what that means is that you don't necessarily not have to pay your mortgage at the end of the term, but you will not have to pay it for 3 months from now. But what they will do is add whatever's left to pay and any interest at the end. But they will have to give you 3 months mortgage holiday.
Right.
Will they be extending that at all?
They haven't mentioned anything yet, but it might be a good idea for you to keep in direct contact with your mortgage company, your lender, and ask them whether they will be. But always keep in touch with the lender. But at the moment, they haven't mentioned anything about extending it beyond that 3 months.
Excellent.
Could I ask you a question, please, Gunduz?
Yeah.
So regarding what we were just discussing about the 3-month holiday period, I believe, if I'm right in saying, and you can correct me if I'm not, that certain mortgage companies, what they're saying to you is after the 3 months, we'll spread the cost that you owe for them 3 months over a period of the next 12 months. Alternatively, as you said, we'll put it onto the end of your mortgage. Are they giving them options on how to pay that back? Because some people may not want that mortgage to carry on for a further 3 months.
Yes, I mean, there is an option for you to make up any payments that you've missed anyway, so you won't have to pay the additional sum beyond that 12 months. So if you want to make any additional payments after the 3 months is over, then you won't have to do that.
Okay, thank you.
It's really useful. Great question, Hasan. Is it okay if I start with the questions that was sent to me well in advance, just to honour those questions? I'm not going to say any names of who asked them, but I'm just going to read them direct, and we'll start with those. And then we've got loads and loads of questions coming in the comments, and we're going to answer those as well. If you're not sure what we're saying and you don't really speak English very well, please write in Turkish. And we'll answer in Turkish. Arkadaşlar, İngilizceyi fazla bilmiyorsanız yorumlarınızı, sorularınızı Türkçe yazıp biz Türkçe cevaplarız. Yani sizi unutmadık. I'm going to start with the questions now. So the first question is, the self-employed payments, I think we covered this, will be based on self-assessment tax returns based on last 3 years, average up to maximum of £2,500 per month, and profits below £50,000. Will you advise people they will only get paid on the amount they declared, not on the amount they actually earned? MW, is that the case?
Well, I mean, the revenue only knows what you've given them. How would they know what you actually earn if you haven't told them what you earned?
Okay.
So,
it's done over the last 3 years of your profits, or what your
well, basically,
income?
basically, your tax return shows how much you earned, and based on those, they will decide how much to give you, because that's what they have. They don't have anything else.
Right, and you study the
But
last 3 years, is it?
yeah, last 3 years revenue. We look at the last 3 years. Basically, you send in your tax return. You've shown how much money you've earned. You pay taxes on them, and that's what really counts. And the 2,500 to 2,500 pounds. If you remember, I mentioned the furloughed employees is capped at £2,500. This
Right.
is why the self-employed as well. So it's like for like. There's
Right,
no
exactly.
preferential
So it's the
as well.
furlough equivalent, but for people
Correct.
that are self-employed. Okay, excellent. Thank you. The next question is, if you are furloughed and in a few months the company's revenue doesn't pick up, as an employer, are you able to sack them or make them redundant?
I think that's for a solicitor really. But I think you have to show if you can show a good business ground, and if you can show, I don't know if Gunduz wants to come in there, but if you can show a good business ground and you can argue the case, then I presume you can. But with all the help provided by the revenue, by the chancellor, 80% of your employees are. I mean, you're supposed to be closed, so you shouldn't have any issue about revenue income anyway,
Yeah.
because they should be all at home, and they are being paid by the HMRC 80%. So, it's not really costing you anything.
Yeah, it's a good point. Good point. Gunduz Bey, would you like to come in there? Is there any help is there any advice you can give if someone who's an employer wants to sort of, I hate the using the word, but sack their employee during furlough?
Unfortunately, I'm not really an expert on employment matters. It's mainly property matters that I can assist with. Sorry.
Thought so. Okay, well, thank you, Enver for advising us as best you can. Obviously, you guys seek your own advice on that, for sure. The next question is, a company has issued me with a letter before action. I have told them I will pay when my business is up and running. They insist I must pay or I will continue to go legal. Do you think a court will even bother with this, even though I am going to fully pay it when I'm up and running? Gunduz Bey, that's similar to the last question in terms of it's more of an employment, small claims court matter. Is that correct?
Yeah, but what I would suggest is that you keep in contact with whoever's issued the claim. I mean, they do need to be understanding in times like this. I don't think courts will be very sympathetic with the person that's issued you with those proceedings. If it does get that far, then you will have a good defence in stating that at the moment we're all in lockdown. It's difficult to make payment, but perhaps if you can give them a call, try and arrange some kind of staged payment, or try and come to some agreement as to when you can make payment.
That's really good advice. Thank you, Gunduz Bey. The next one is, what are the tax implications of the grant and the bounce back loans? Are they taxable, Enver Bey?
Well, the grant, there are different grants. So if you've been furloughed employees, that's a grant. So that works the same way as before. So the revenue gives you the gross. So if someone is earning £2,000, they are giving you the £1,600 plus the employer's NIC. So they're actually giving you all the money that you have to pay back to them. If it's the 10,000 or 25,000, there's actually a grant which is not subject to a tax at the moment. We don't think, but we'll find out soon enough. But at the moment, we don't think it's subject to tax. The self-assessment income is subject. So if you are getting as a self-employed, if you are getting any income, it is subject to tax. It's a taxable grant.
Okay, I think the internet went off there. So the grant is taxable. Did you say?
Yeah, if you are self-employed,
yeah,
and you are getting any money from the HMRC, that is taxable grant. That is taxable payment to you. Same as the furloughed employees.
Right, but the grant that's given to you by the council, which you apply for direct from the council, that's not taxable at the moment.
That's what we understand.
Okay, but there's nothing confirmed yet.
Correct.
Okay, there's your answer, guys. And a great answer. Thank you very much, Emir Bey. How will viewings? This one for Gunduz Bey or Hassan as well, definitely. How will viewings and new lettings now take place? If it's virtual, who arranges the virtual viewing?
Right. So, I mean, I can answer that, Hasan. Um, Today, the Public Health England issued new guidance which actually states that um, the lockdown rules will be eased for anybody that's undertaking any activity in connection with the purchase, sale, letting, or rental of a residential property. So this essentially means now that visiting estate agents or letting agents is allowed. We're allowed to view properties if we want to buy or let, and we're allowed to move homes during this lockdown period. So the guidance that the government have given is that is directed specifically to estate agents, and in this they state that initially you are encouraged to have online viewings, and only should go and visit a property physically if you're serious about buying it. So initially you'll have a virtual viewing, but if you are serious about buying it, you are allowed to go out and visit that property, and the government have issued guidelines to estate agents of how to deal with that safely. Now what they've said is that viewing should be done by appointment only. So you need to make an appointment, and you need to maintain social distancing. If you are selling your property, it's probably best for you to vacate the property, and allow everybody to go in whilst you vacated. But if you're viewing a property, what they've said is all of the usual stuff really. All parties need to wash their hands, avoid touching surfaces, all of the usual stuff.
Okay. Great advice, Gunduz Bey. Hassan, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I would like to add something to that, because obviously that's something that we're looking. Obviously, we deal with lettings, so that's something that we've been really looking into a lot. And what we've decided to do for what we feel is the best practice for our business is we are doing what we call live viewings. So, for example, we will, if we've got a property that's tenanted, then we will message email, should we say, or call the tenant that's currently in the property, ask them when would be a suitable time for us to come round to the property, when they will be out. Maybe they'll go for an exercise walk, or they may even be back at work. And then we would go there and do what we call a live walkthrough viewing. So a bit similar to what we're doing now. We would call them directly off our phone on FaceTime and walk them around the property, ask any questions they've got. So it's a little bit like we're doing a normal viewing, apart from they're not physically present, but they are present on my phone. And that's just something that we feel is a good way to go around, because it gives that personal touch. When you do, because I've seen lots of things come up with virtual viewings, and with virtual viewings, there's a lot of pluses to it, but there's also a lot of downside to it. That obviously it's going to take up a lot of storage. There's a lot of GDPR kind of stuff that you've got to take into consideration. So it was like so we didn't go down that avenue where we had to think about all these issues. We thought, right, we just do a live viewing, and that's the way we're going forward at the moment. And I'll be totally honest with you, I don't know if it's just because of me, but I've managed to let 2 properties out doing that so far already. So for me, that's great. I mean, we're just a small family business, so that's been really good on our behalf. The only downside to it is some tenants, which you would know as well, Gunduz, is if a tenant says to us, sorry, I don't want no one in my property, while they're property, we cannot enter the property, although we give them 24 hours notice, 48 hours, 1 week's notice. If they say that we can't come in, then we can't come in. So we may have the tricky tenants, or the more cautious tenants, shall I say. But mostly so far it's been good, and we've been pretty lucky because a lot of our tenants, the properties that we've had vacant, are still tenanted, but the tenants were from abroad, and they had, when COVID kicked in, they decided to go back to their home country, and stay with their family there. So we've been pretty lucky in that. But that's how we're approaching the viewing side of things as well.
Yeah.
Right, excellent. Great advice. Thank you, Hasan. Another question here says, would the bounce back loan or any sort of lending in terms of COVID, would it affect your affordability criteria when applying for things such as mortgages? Who would be able to answer that?
I don't think the bounce back loan specifically will affect your ability to get a mortgage. What will affect it is if your financial circumstances have changed, and lenders now are looking further into this. So if you've been furloughed, for example, they might not lend you as much as you would have if you had been employed. And also, I don't think it's actually specifically to do with the bounce back loan. It's more to do with your financial circumstances, and if they have changed, then unfortunately they may lend you less, or they may refuse to provide you with a mortgage.
Okay, that's really good advice, Gunduz. Thank you very much. So we're going to move on to some questions that have been sent in from you guys as well, and we've got some sent to us through our private messaging at the moment. So we start with them, and it's a question that says, do we know if the initial 3-month mortgage holiday will be extended as a result of the ongoing restrictions in place? Can you also advise if it is a good idea to market your home for sale currently, or should we wait?
Yeah, I think we've spoke about the 3-month mortgage holiday being extended. It's probably good to keep in touch with your lender and see whether they will. But officially at the moment, it is 3 months. We don't know whether that will be extended. But keeping in touch with the mortgage company, and hopefully they may be able to assist if you do need longer than that. The second part of that question, whether it's a good idea to market your home for sale now, I think that really depends on whether or not you think you'll get the best price for it now. I mean, it might not be the best time to do it now, but if you've got a figure in your mind, in your head, and you believe that you may be able to achieve that, then yes, I mean, you can. Because, as I said, today they've opened up the property market. Viewings can take place, and if you're prepared to do that, then why not?
Yeah, of course. Hasan, would you like to add anything to that in terms of
I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, Gunduz, I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but look, I'm part of Arla Property Mark, and I'm a Marla member as well. And obviously, we get a lot of obviously newsletters, etc., coming through to us. Information coming through to us consistently about COVID-19. One of the things they're kind of like predicting, and this is, I suppose, it depends on the area that you live in the UK, as all also, but they're kind of like predicting that obviously when we go back and everything opens back up, which it has done now, that there could potentially be up to a 13% decrease in property values. Now, I've got a landlord at the moment who purchased a property about 6-7 years ago for about 330,000, and he wants to put it on the market now to sell. Now, it's valued currently at 315,000 due to this COVID, and that was obviously we're a letting agent, a residential letting agent. We don't do sales, so we deal with many other local agents in Cambridge. And we've got several valuations, and they're all coming in around about £315,000. Ultimately, what will happen is the landlords come to us and said to us, we would like 330,000. So the agent he's decided to go with has agreed to market it at 330,000. Whether we achieve that or not is another question.
Yeah.
The thing that, as you know as well as I know, what drives property prices down is the market being flooded with properties that are for sale. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah.
So I think at the moment, this is where it's a catch-22. This is where I said at the beginning that we've none of us ever been in this position before to actually quite understand what the future holds. So if many people do not want to put their properties on the market at the moment because they're worried that the prices will devaluate, then potentially you can achieve 330, maybe 335, 340 if it's the right property for the right person.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I think.
Well put. Yeah, well put. All right.
So can I come in the first part?
That'd be great, Enver Bey. Yeah, please.
With the mortgage holidays, I've been able to get our clients property 12 months holiday. I've got a template which I give it to them and they send it. And a few times the lenders came back asking for more information. 100% they were able to get 12 months basically
Wow.
holiday.
Wow,
Just-
that
just-
is really good.
Well
Yeah,
done.
I mean, it just, I always say, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Well done, Enver Bey.
It's
That's
very
great
true.
advice, guys. You heard it here first. 12 months mortgage holiday potentially. So yeah.
Serkan, do you mind if I follow a question off of that, please?
Of course you can. Yeah. Go for
So
it.
obviously, this is a question that I'd potentially like to go to Gunduz now. Now we seem to have like a lot of tenants that are coming to us at the moment saying to us we can't afford our mortgage, we can't afford our rent, sorry, etc., etc. To be fair, on our predicament, we've been pretty lucky where tenants have come to us and said, look, we can't afford the full amount of rent, but we can afford X amount of rent. Okay. Which we've put to the landlords, and our landlords have been very, very understandable and have been able to do that. Now, some of the things that our landlords are saying to us that I'm happy to reduce the rent for the next 3 months. However, the money that it falls short, they will need to pay that money back to us
That's right.
because although we may have 3 months holiday, I've still got to pay that money.
That's right.
Is that something familiar that you're finding?
Yeah, that's correct. Although, if a tenant's saying to the landlord, I can't pay the rent, what's best for the tenant and the landlord is for them to agree, well, pay something, because eventually, after this 3 months is over, you're going to have to make up the rent anyway. And if you don't, they'll be able to issue proceedings for possession.
Section 21's personal, yeah.
Possession proceedings can't take place at the moment for 3 months from the 27th of March. So essentially, you won't be able to start possession proceedings until after July 2020. And if you haven't served that notice, that's another 2 months. So essentially, you can't get the tenant out now until September 2020. The best thing for landlords and tenants to do now is agree to at least pay whatever the tenant can, because once this is all over, the landlord will have the right to issue proceedings, and the tenant will have to make up those arrears. And it will be harder for the tenant to keep up with paying those arrears if they haven't made any payment whatsoever within those 3 months. So it's best to pay as much as you can now, so it'll be easier for you to make up any arrears later on if you are a tenant.
Yeah, that's
I
what
actually went to my landlord clients and said, why don't you go and offer your tenants 80%? They're getting 80% pay. They can pay you 80%. At least you got some money coming in if you can afford it. And I've got a landlord with about 25 properties, and all of their tenants agreed, and he became a hero.
Yeah, Enver, that's exactly something that we decided to do as well, because if you've been furloughed, you're still getting 80%. And that's what we've done to a lot of our tenants. And apart from 2 or 3, the rest of them are taking that up. We've got 2 or 3 tenants that are not paying any rent at the moment at all, so it's a battle for that. But yeah, that's what we've done. And to be fair, they've been really, really good at it. So yeah,
It's a very tough situation, isn't it? It's just,
it is.
Until
But I mean,
I
I think the problem is that if you are a buy-to-let landlord, you are in a very difficult predicament, because you're not getting any help from the government. Your tenants are not paying you. And if your lender is not playing ball, what are you supposed to do? So I think in this crisis, the worst hit are the landlords. I mean, it's like as if they're excuse me using this word, but scum off the earth. But they're providing a service. They're providing a very good, valuable service, and they have been treated really bad. This is the only criticism I will have of the Chancellor. They have been making a lot of noise with the landlords associations and also the accountants association. So hopefully, I'm hoping to see something end of this month, because
That's
it's
really
not
good.
fair. It's just not fair.
Yeah, well said, Enver Bey. Gunduz Bey, are you in them sort of networks as well, where you're trying to fight for landlords as a solicitor's perspective?
Yeah, it's difficult for landlords now, because obviously they can't issue proceedings for possession. They've got to make up any mortgage holiday later on, so it is difficult for landlords. But as I said, the best thing to do is communicate with the tenants, try and agree some kind of payment, because as Enver said earlier, anything is better than nothing.
Exactly.
guys, this is really great advice. Thank you so much, all of you. Just to move on to the next one, I think this is about employers and employees. I think I'm going to skip that because that's more, unless you guys want me to read it.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. Employer, boss calls and asks for me to return to work. I refuse. What's my employment rights? It's a hypothetical question, but already happening today. Will it be informed if it's asked tonight?
I think if you are refusing to go back to work, the furlough rules are quite simple. If you don't feel safe to go back to work, that you're not supposed to be asked to go back to work, and as long as if you don't feel safe because of where you're working, and you should not be pressurized to go back to work, and if you are sacked, as far as I know, you have a recourse because you've been sacked unfairly.
Yeah, and that will go down the employment tribunal route, I'm assuming. Where
But I
later
think,
date, is that
best
correct?
thing again, what Gunduz was saying a minute ago, communication.
Yeah.
Try to sort issues out before it comes to this kind of heads-on clash.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Communication is key.
any unfair dismissal, obviously, you're in your right to go to tribunals and seek legal advice about that. Hasan Özkoç said, my tenants cannot pay me at the moment. My mortgage lender has not given me. I think we just covered that, the mortgage holiday, for those sort of landlords. Anything else you want to add before I move on to the next question? Because we've covered that in quite detail.
Yeah, I think we just spoke about that.
Yeah. As an employer, do I have to start contributing to the furlough? Enver Bey?
It is not. It is up to you. Basically the rules say you take the 80% and you give it to your employees, but it is entirely up to you. It is not compulsory. You don't have to add on the 20%. It's entirely up to how you want to play with it. So
Can I just be devil's advocate for a second? What if an employer, I don't know if this has happened before, and if there's anyone watching, what if someone gets entitled to 80% and the employer doesn't pay it into that employee's account and gives them 40%?
Well, first of all, as a law, they must get a payslip, and the payslip will show if they've been furloughed. So they have to ask for a payslip. If the payslip shows they've been furloughed at 80%, then they must ask for the 80%. I mean, it is. I'm hoping that there's no employers out there doing this, but yes, employees are entitled to payslips, and they must ask for payslips, and the payslips will show if they've been furloughed because it says furlough salary on the payslips.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you very much. Next question. I'm self-employed. I've made a loss for the last 2 years. Can I get any help?
Yes, universal credit.
That self-employed help wouldn't.
No, because he has not made no profit. There's nothing to distribute. But again, if the HMRC thinks that they may give him some, they will send them a text or message. But my advice would be not to wait to go and claim universal credit.
Right, great advice. Next question is, I'm self-employed but only been in the business for 6 months and being told I'm not entitled to anything. Yeah, exactly the same again. Is there no help for people like me?
Universal credit.
Universal credit, thank you. Question for Enver Bey. What if you get the bounce back loan and go out of business in 5 months?
Well, basically, the bounce back loan has been guaranteed by the government 100%. So the taxpayer will basically pick up the bill. But obviously, if you've taken the money and it's been misused, then there's going to be
Fraud investigation, of course.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just,
100%.
but I mean, if you've taken the money and your business has gone out of business because of all these problems, for example, you cannot open your shop and whatever, then there's nothing anyone can do for you.
Yeah, great advice. I've applied for the CBILS over a month ago, but my bank has still not come back to me. How long can they possibly take to respond?
To give you an example, we had an application for a client based in Covent Garden that took 9 weeks. We had an application that took 6 weeks. It depends on the banks. Some banks are quicker than others. So really, without knowing which bank it is, but I would advise you to chase your bank manager, because what's happened is, as you know, the banks have gone digital. So there are not many bank managers, and the bank manager is supposed to deal with the CBLs. And because there are not many of them, it's who shouts first.
Yeah.
So I would say I would say basically, but there's new funders in the play. So you got Funding Circle out there. Funding Circle is 24 hours return, 24 hours. It's more
Wow.
expensive, but it's 24 hours. So, you know, if it's taking long, I think you should give them a call. And if it's less than 50,000, I would switch to BBL because BBL will be easier and quicker.
Could we just confirm to the viewers what CBIL is and what BBL is? Obviously, BBL's bounce back loan. What is the CBIL's?
CBLs it's basically any loans over 50,000.
Right. Okay. Is that government loan or is that just
Yeah,
a?
it's government loan. It's 80% guaranteed by the government loan. If you apply for those loans, you should not be asked. I mean, the banks were asking for personal guarantees. You should not be. You should not be giving any personal guarantees for any of those loans because they're guaranteed by the banks. We had a case where the bank asked for about 6 different items. Yesterday they came back only asking for 3 different items. So the pressure is working.
Great, good stuff.
But I mean, but my advice to that person is chase your bank manager, chase your bank because it's who shouts first that gets the loan first, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course.
Or switch to another lender like Funding Circle.
Right. Okay, and that's for the CBILs only, because obviously with a bounce back loan, you have to go to your own bank. Is that correct?
Yeah, CBILs are quite easy to go to your own bank, and it's online application except for Barclays. Barclays is having problems. That everybody else, you just go into Google and say, I don't know, Lloyd's Bank, BBL loans. It comes up, you do the application, and that's Bob's your uncle.
Great stuff.
With the Barclays, you have to log in, and the login has not been working for most of my clients. It can't be a coincidence.
Yeah, there you go. You've heard it here first. If you're with Barclays, it's going to be difficult at the moment.
Well,
yeah, go on, then, I'll be sorry.
The Barclays, the branch employees at Barclays are screaming their heads off because people are going in asking for help.
Oh dear. And I will just advise as well from personal experience, make sure you read the terms and conditions of all these bounce back loans because all the banks are different. Is that correct?
No, bounce back loans is one condition for all because it's given by the government. So it's 2.5%, 6 years, no repayment or anything within 12 months, and this fix everything is the same for all the banks.
But
for the bounce back.
How about in the terms? I'm hearing from friends that are saying they can't use it for certain things and they can with other, like Starling has not given you certain conditions where another bank will give you more stricter conditions in terms of what you can use the bounce back loan for.
Well, I mean, you're supposed to use it for the business anyway. That's the main reason why you're borrowing it.
Okay.
You're supposed to use for business to stay afloat, to basically keep on trading.
And is that the advice that's in the terms and conditions, or is that where's that advice? Where can people get access to that to say you can?
Well, when you are
for the business,
when you apply, and there's, I mean, for example, NatWest goes through about 6 different stages. Lloyd's is about 6-page application form and asks you questions, yes or no, yes or no. So you have to be careful what you are saying.
Okay. All right, that's really
but they
important.
are 95% are the same because it's basically drawn up by the treasury. So it's basically they're all the same.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Emir. One for Hasan. Is purple bricks a good investment, Hasan?
For me,
Is purple bricks that?
To be fair, I think purple bricks at this precise moment might be a good thing to do. But because purple bricks, you're the one that you're the person that you advertise on their website. You advertise on their web page. They set everything up for you, but you're actually the one that does the legwork. If I'm right in saying it, am I right in saying that? Gunduz?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, you're the one that does all the legwork. You're the one that will put the photos up. You're the one that will carry out the viewings and talk to these potential purchasers. So it could potentially be a good one, yeah, especially at this time. No, definitely.
All right, good question. And purple bricks, for people that don't know, and I don't know it too well either, is your own. You just sort of you're the estate agent yourself. That makes sense.
That's correct. Yeah, Purple Bricks give you basically some tools to. You pay Purple Bricks a fee, but it's a standard one.
Is it a platform?
Yeah,
It's a platform. Yeah.
You,
Goodness, I've never dealt with them. I don't know if you've dealt with them, so you might be able to.
No, I haven't.
I have dealt with them. They're not too bad. They're like any other regular estate agent. The only difference is that you have more control. You're in charge of advertising the property, as you said, taking the photos and doing the viewings. But obviously, it's a much cheaper price than your ordinary estate agent.
Excellent. That's good advice. Thank you very much, boys. In your opinion, this one's for Gunduz Bey and Hasan Bey. In your opinion, will there be a stamp duty holiday in the upcoming months?
Well, there has been talk of a stamp duty holiday, but nothing's been set in stone yet. I think it will be a good thing. It would encourage the housing market, encourage buyers. But the thing with a stamp duty holiday is it's not that you won't be paying stamp duty. It's just like a deferred payment. You have to pay at a later date. So I think it will encourage people if it does come into place. There has been talk of it. Experts have said that it'll be a good thing, but we'll just have to wait and see whether they announce anything on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Next question is, I'm not sure if we can answer this, but we'll give it a go. Are we still entitled to sort of accumulate holidays whilst our workplace is closed? Anyone know the answer to that potentially?
I'm not sure, but well,
Okay.
I presume you are. But I presume you are because you're still employed.
Yeah.
But I think best thing would be to do a check on the ACRES website.
Acres.
Yeah, they are the body that helps with any issues between the employers and employees.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, guys, head over to the Acres website. We've
don't
got
know if
another
we could-
question. Yep, go on, Hassan.
Sorry, I don't know if we could get if we can get that up on the screen for people to follow. With our guy in the background, I don't know if he could do that for us.
Yeah, we've got someone in the background, guys. Thank you to Halil Brown from here. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. I opened my new baby clothes shop, which is in a mall. So I've got a small unit, but unfortunately, I was open for only 2 weeks before we went into lockdown, and I'm not entitled to the grant. But my landlord is still asking for the rent. What do I do? I have not paid him, but we paid for the whole of March, but only got 2 weeks of it.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the landlord is correct in saying that we are still responsible for paying the rent. Under the terms of the lease, you're still obliged to pay for the rent. And it's unfortunate that you only opened up 2 weeks ago before lockdown.
Yeah.
But the landlord does need to be understanding, and the landlord needs to be aware that there's nothing you can do. You can't open up, you can't pay the rent, and he will need to understand this. He won't be able to issue any proceedings to forfeit the lease because all possession proceedings have been suspended for at least 3 months now.
3 months.
Yeah. So he won't be able to suspend or terminate the lease. But after all of this is over, unfortunately, you will have to make up the rent. But the landlord should be understanding that you could find some kind of agreement for you to forego that rent during this closed period.
Yeah, because I'm under the assumption that landlord, because she owns a small unit as part of a big shop, and he's hired out each unit by unit, I'm assuming as he will be the leaseholder, as an assumption, or the freeholder, he will be able to. Would the freeholder get the help from the government as well as the leaseholder, or would it depend on his position whether he gets the grants or not?
The freeholder won't get any government grants in respect of business, but in terms of the mortgage, if he has a mortgage over the property, he can obviously apply for the mortgage holiday. But he's entitled to ask for it. It doesn't mean he will get it. And if it does go to court, again, I think the courts may sympathise with the tenant because there's nothing that they can do. It's beyond their control.
Yeah. I mean, it's really great advice. The only thing from that which is a positive is, as Gunduz Bey said, there's no sort of proceedings at the moment, which is your only sort of lifeline
Yeah.
And it's just, and as Enver said earlier, the landlords are sort of bottom of the pile, scum of the earth, because at the moment they're not helping them, and so it's a bit of it's a strange one for everyone. But yeah, thank you guys, that's really good advice. Our work is saying we are not accumulating holiday at all whilst the salon is closed, but we are being furloughed and it isn't them paying. Are they allowed to do this?
So are they being furloughed and not getting paid?
Yeah, so whilst the salon is closed, but we are being furloughed and it isn't them paying. Are they allowed to do this? Can you guys see it in your private chat that it's second from bottom? Maybe you can see it and make a bit more understanding of it. So if we can ask Yasmin just to clarify what she means here, but our work is saying we are not accumulating holiday at all whilst the salon is closed, but we are being furloughed and it isn't them paying. Are they allowed to do this? So there's a question up there now.
So they is the question. I'm not sure. Are they saying the business is getting the furlough money but not paying it to them, or is she saying what is she asking?
I think I'm understanding from this is that she's not accumulating her holiday, but she's being furloughed and being paid by furlough, but not accumulating a holiday, if that makes sense.
Right.
Well, I mean,
sorry, Robbie.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think again, I mean, as far as I know, if you are being furloughed, you are still employed by that company. So as long as you are employed, then you are accumulating a holiday. So, but again, I could be wrong. That's something for HR.
Yeah, it needs to be directed to an employment.
Yeah,
if possible.
Okay. Have you got any questions from YouTube? Because we're being streamed on YouTube as well, Hasan. Is there anything on there that
we've got ask? Nothing coming through on YouTube at the moment.
Okay.
That I can see. I think they all come through to the same feed as well.
Oh, that's really good to know then. And
I've got a question here.
Oh, go on, Hasan. Yeah, no problem.
This is from Chanel Ali. Hello. Hello all. We are good selling and letting agent. Gunduz has used us before. Range Homes. Maybe this isn't a question. Palmer's Green. Happy to help with any sales.
No, say it. No problem, Chanel.
We're happy to help with any sales or lettings that they may be required. So that was
good.
Chanel doing
nice
a bit of
plug. Well done, Chanel. I
like it. Good
Take
plug,
opportunity.
Chanel.
That's what we're here for. No problem. There's people talking about these loans, Enver, about they can see it being sort of a lot of people sort of doing bad with them and abusing the system. What's your thoughts on that, Enver?
Well, unfortunately, it's going to happen. Obviously there's going to be 5-10% bad apple in there, so there's nothing one can do, because there's people are. The treasurer is trying to help. Treasurer is trying to help the country, the businesses, small businesses, to stay afloat. So they understand that, and unfortunately, it's going to happen. But there's nothing they can do. Really, I think the banks. That's why the banks were reluctant. Were reluctant to lend 100% backed loans, and that's why the government came in to say, okay.
I've got a question I would like to throw at you guys, and this is going to be definitely an open-up question, and as we say, we never know. So the government at the moment are throwing a lot of money out to us, helping us support us, businesses, people, etc., etc. What worries me is once we're out of this, how are they going to recoup that money back? Because there's not much money coming in. At the moment, if businesses are furloughed, businesses are closed, there's not going to be not much money coming in by taxes, etc., etc. So what are your thoughts on how they're going to try and recoup some of this money back? Because
I think it would increase the VAT, maybe. It might be that they increase income tax for the higher earners. It could be any of that, the usual things that they do. Although they might have more.
Well, I was on a webinar with Bank of England on yesterday, and they drew a very bleak picture.
Yeah.
They think that the 35% of the economy is going to disappear. So, they think that we won't start the recovery until you asked us. It's something that we've been discussing, and there's a lot of discussions. I think as Gunduz Bey mentioned, there's going to be maybe increase in VAT, maybe increase in the capital gains tax, maybe increase in the IHT. I mean, IR35 made a lot of noises. That's going to definitely stay now. And I don't know if you all remember, but Chancellor, the first speech he made about the furloughing employees and helping, he said in the future, everyone must pay their share of tax. Richard Branson has been asking, to get money for the Virgin Group, and he's been refused over and over again. Why? Well, you don't pay tax, therefore we're not helping you. And this has been in Spain, Italy, Greece, Portugal, Hungary, everywhere. So coming back to your question, in the future we are going to have lot stricter tax rules. And you ask Serkan, what happens to the loans if they're not paid? Well,
Yeah.
you and I and anybody else that pays tax is going to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, we're going back to what happened with the banking crisis. Because it was the banking crisis, we ended up paying for it. This time, again, we are, the taxpayer is going to pay for it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's
nothing's
really
ever
good
free.
advice. And just to touch on that again, Enver Bey, and maybe Gunduz Bey can interrupt as well from the legal point of view. There's controversy at the moment because they've allowed this sort of bounce back loan to be open to people that are sort of landlords that run a limited company and they buy
Yes.
properties through it. And there's people that are using that loan to spend 50 grand on a house up North England, or they are using it to pay for their car. Is this possible? Can you do that without giving? I know we can't give advice on this, but what are the implications of that? Is that in the terms and conditions of these bounce back loans?
But I haven't seen anything in the terms and conditions that says that you can't take the money and do whatever you want with it. But I haven't looked at it too closely. I know that a lot of people are doing what you're saying, but I mean, the bounce back loans are they really mainly to support small businesses to keep trading and be there after this pandemic.
Yeah.
So, but as I said to you before, I mean, you're not going to stop everyone. You can't stop everyone doing, not abusing the system. And what's going to happen is as long as they pay the loan back and they are paying their repayments, then there's not going to be any issue really because you are paying it back. The banks are getting the money back. There's no default. If there's any default, then you'll have problems. But unfortunately, this is going to happen, and I think people should stop worrying about that. In my view, try to if you need money, borrow the money and get on with it, and don't worry about what your next door is doing. We have this issue with we have this issue trying to see what next door is doing. Forget about your next door. Help your next door to stay alive and help your next door to be here after this pandemic. But if
Well
they're
said.
breaking the law, it's on their conscience. It's them to deal with. Because one thing that the revenue said from the outset, I mean, they were very strict and they're very clear. Any fraud shall be dealt severely because you are basically taking money from someone who does need it. So this is HMRC's basically this is what they said. So anyone doing anything wrong, undoing, then they should be aware that HMRC is going to be investigating, looking into. I mean, like if you furloughed your employees and you're not paying them, and they complain, I think you'll pay the furlough amount back plus the 100% penalty probably.
Okay, that's good advice. Well said. I agree with that comment about forget what your neighbours gomushunu boş versen yoluna bak. I completely agree. There's a few more questions coming in thick and fast, and we'll try and answer them as best we can. If the contract is on a company and the company is not able to generate any revenue plus not able to get any help by the government, what happens next? From İpek Volkan.
Well, I mean, if the company is not generating any revenue, if it's got any employees, it should furlough them, so there's got no cost. If it's got any premises, try to come to some arrangement with the landlord. But really try to do cost minimization. and try to make sure you are here still trading after this pandemic. But if if the company is not doing any generating any income, just furlough your employees until you are able to.
Can I ask a question off that, please, Enver? That if a company is still trading but not trading as much as they are, can they employ someone? Can they take one of their employees, make them a part-timer, and be furloughed for the remainder of that money?
No.
No, so it's
That
either furlough or nothing.
Yeah, that's coming in on August.
Okay.
That's coming in on August. But presently, you're either working or you're not working. You're either furloughed or you're not.
But
You
in
can't be.
August, they may bring that into the
No,
equation, right?
he said he shall do. He said he shall do. But
Okay, that's good.
currently you're either furloughed or you are basically working. You can't be in between.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Just to add on to that, we've actually got another question about furlough from Emin Osman. If you've been furloughed, do you need to reapply again for extension of the furlough?
No.
Question.
Basically, if you've been furloughed and you are doing furloughing every month, you just it's going to be on a monthly basis. You are going to submit furloughed employees' details to the HMRC basic portal. So initially it was for March and April, because we stopped March 17th. So then end of May, I mean, for example, our payroll manager would send an email to everyone, say, is it the same or is there changes? And if some people are gone back to work, then we'll take them off furlough. If some others gone on, so I mean, every month you have to make an application to the portal anyway. So in that application, you'll state if you have decided not to be furloughed or not to furlough employees or not. So it's going to be a monthly application to the furlough.
Okay, thank you, Emir. We've got a question for the property boys. Is it a buyer's market? We covered it earlier, but from Serkan Mustafa, is it a buyer's market now, or wait a little? How much reduction are we likely to see on properties? It's a tough one to say, but what do you guys reckon?
There's not much activity at the moment in respect to the property market, but now that the government have issued these new guidelines today, hopefully it will start to pick up. In terms of it being a buyer's market, I mean, there's articles and experts going around saying that there has been a reduction in property prices by 2-3% since lockdown. But eventually, I mean, in my opinion, property prices will start to bounce back as they usually do. At the moment, I'd say it is a good time to buy if you can. I'm not an expert, but that's just my opinion on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty with you on that, to be honest with you. I believe that it will be, I believe it's a buyer's market. I thought it was a buyer's market before we went into the COVID-19, personally. I felt that a lot of people were a bit worried about Brexit at the time and just wanted to try and put their properties on the market to sell. The property market was flooded with properties that were for sale, which obviously drove the prices down. And I thought it was like that previously before. So I do think that will still stay this way. But listen, time will tell. If you've got money, test the waters. If you've got money, you can always test the waters and put ambitious offers in for properties. And it depends how desperate the property seller wants to sell.
Yeah, of course, 100%. And by the way, would there be any help for businesses that are forced to open, like the hospitality sector, in July or August or whenever it's going to be? Would there be any extra help for those businesses? Any talk from the big guns?
Not at the moment. I think there's not. The only thing they're saying is, if you open and you only need, out of 20, say, you need only 10 employees, just bring the 10 back initially, and then still furlough the rest, and then that will be until end of October. So indirectly there is help. Basically, you don't have to bring all your employees back because you won't be able to open fully. So just bring what you need, and then we pay the rest. So indirectly, yes, there is a help.
Okay, excellent. And one last question about property, I reckon, before we close the show. If we've got any more questions, just write them in over the next 2 minutes so we can get them in quickly. In terms of moving forward, what is your opinion, just opinion, in terms of the sort of after recession or during recession? Are they going to loosen sort of help for restrictions on landlords when it comes to, is it Section 24 tax, where you can't claim your interest for your business, and you've got to claim the mortgage and interest? Do you reckon they're going to make that stricter? They're going to remove that, or what do you reckon is going to happen with all that sort of stuff?
Well, to be honest, I mean that was, to me, that's a very stupid rule anyway, because in accountancy there are four basic rules. One is that you can set against expenses when you generate revenue, and bring that in, and they brought it in because they were trying to stop people doing buy to lets instead of building homes. So, but I think what I said before, I don't think that will change. Why? Because they need to raise more revenue. Why get rid of that when that actually brings in more revenue?
Yeah, thank you. Anything you guys want to add to that from a property perspective? Can you say, can they favour landlords more just to sort of restart the property market again?
Well, today was an important day for landlords as well. I mean, and estate agents. The property market is a big step today that the government issued these guidelines. Hopefully that the property market will be back on track, and we can bounce back to where we were prior to lockdown. I mean, we need to stay positive and do as much as we can now. We need to adapt and ensure that we can carry on with these social distancing rules, but hopefully we will bounce back to where we were.
Okay, and one just quickly for Hasan, if you know about the lending criteria at the moment, I'm not sure if we covered this, but say a young couple just gets married, want to buy their first house, everything's a mess. Are mortgages still lending at the same way they were lending before? Is the criteria change? Is it still 4.75 your wages or whatever it is? Any changes in that?
I'm going to be totally honest with you. I'm going to pass it over to Gunduz, because
well
I don't
done,
deal with
mate.
mortgages.
Yeah, mortgage companies are still lending. Their criteria may have changed. For residential, you're right, it is between 4 and 5 times your salary. But what they will ask is whether you expect to be furloughed, what your current position is in regards to employment. But the good news is valuations are still going ahead. Mortgage companies are still lending.
Great.
So you should be fine.
And interest hasn't gone up or come down?
Interest rates are actually going down. So now is a good time to remortgage. Interest rates are going down at the moment.
Okay, interesting. Hasan, what did you want to say there? You was pointing upwards.
I thought it was going up. I thought I read something that said they were starting to go up. The Bank of Interest rates.
No, the Bank of England is Bank of in the webinar I was, there was the one of the lending, what they call them, the lending division side. The governor was basically saying, no, we are going to try to make lending easier to keep us out of this mess. But can I a question to Gunduz Bey? I've heard that the valuers are valuing properties 50-20% less than they would have done before the pandemic. Is that correct?
Well, some valuers are, yes. The valuations are coming back quite a lot less than they would have before. But some valuers are still doing desktop valuations where they don't have to attend the property. But in terms of getting a mortgage, the rates are a lot lower. So it's a good time potentially to even remortgage now.
Wow. Does that answer your question then, Midway?
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
Well, before I leave the last words to you guys, there's been no further questions come through, which is great. I hope everyone's really enjoyed what we've done today and found it informative. We thought we'll come together as a Turkish community group and just get people that are not sure. I've learned so much from listening to you guys. You guys are the experts, but we don't know it all. So we want to apologize on behalf of all four of us if we've said anything that could be incorrect. But, based on your own personal circumstances, do get your own advice. I just want to say thank you to our guests. You guys have been brilliant. Hasan is the admin of the group, and he will follow on from this on Wednesdays, on Business Wednesdays. I just wanted to also say there's people out there that are messaging me. How can people appoint yourselves to act as their accountant or to act as their solicitor? How can people get in touch with you?
I feel free to message me on Facebook or I can provide you with my number. Just feel free to message me or search me on the website.
And that's for properties and commercial. So you do both. Okay, brilliant. Enver Bey?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very active on LinkedIn, and also I'm quite active in the community as well. And our office is in Thomas Green, and we are very active social media. So we got Instagram account, Facebook account, and I mean, the Facebook account, I would ask people to follow it because we provide so much information on a daily basis. It's just like really good. I think you used a word which I didn't like though. You used a word which I don't like. The word Sherkan you used is to do with the economy. Don't use that word.
Did I? I can't remember that.
We are not in
Probably.
recession. We are not in recession.
I did say that. Yeah, I did
We,
use the
we
R
are
word.
not in
You're right.
recession.
No, the
We are
reason why I
in.
said that, the Chancellor said it today on live TV about an hour before we started the show. It's all over the news. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. That's the word to use. He used the R word. The Chancellor said it today, an hour before the show. He said the UK is
He should.
in and the R
Yeah,
word.
I've seen that as well. But he shouldn't be using that word.
Tamam.
We
Vallahi.
are in. We are in
No
a
benzeme.
slowdown. We are in a
We
slowdown.
okay. The
When
R
you say
word is a
recession,
scary word.
when you say it's recession, people stop spending money.
Ah, I see.
We don't want that because
And
we are, as a UK, we are a consumer-led economy. So if the consumer stop spending, then we will go into a spin down.
the R words. And Verabi, you know, you said follow us on Facebook. What do they type into Facebook to follow your company?
ADPL LLP.
Okay. And Osman,
ADPLLP.
I want to leave the last word to you, if that's okay, about what you do with the group and Wednesdays and
Kim
your
Ben.
company as well, yeah, and your lettings company.
Oh right, yeah. Sorry, you said Osman, so I'm not used to that. I'm used to Hasan.
Hasan Osman, Galiba
Yeah.
Internet
Well,
Technology.
yeah. Well, guys, listen. What we try to do, and we try to do this all the time, is every Wednesday we make the Page of Business Wednesday platform. We make it an opportunity for you guys out there that have businesses to advertise your business to a mass audience. And try to keep everyone in the community ticking over and going, which has been a great success of late. So thank you very much for those who have been posting their business and continue to do so. We would be obviously. I think this conversation has been very, very great for, especially to fall on a Business Wednesday as well. I think that's going to help a lot of people out as well. And we want to continue to do that on the Business Wednesday page. I mean, for myself, I run a letting agency called EPS Properties. If you can see, bit of check in, bit of advertisement, plug in, yeah.
That's better.
You know, and we're a family-run business based in Cambridge. Obviously, it's different to London, but I wouldn't say the property prices are far out from London to Cambridge at the moment. But if you guys got any questions, feel free to get in contact with me.
Yep.
I will ask for Gunduz and Enver Abi's contact details, not mobile, but ways you can catch me on Facebook, and maybe we can put that on the bottom of the comments on this
Yep.
program. And you know, if you've got any questions, get in contact with either myself or Serkan, and we can try and focus you and point you into the right direction.
100%. Well
Yeah,
said. Any questions? I'll forward on to Enver Bey and Gunduz.
Yeah, I'm
Bey.
happy
Any
to
other
answer.
questions?
I'm happy to answer.
Anything that you guys need, just let me know.
Guys, I love this
Thank you
community.
very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for listening to us as well till nearly 9 o'clock. Hi lift Allah. I hope everything goes okay with that as well. And it's iftar time now, so herkes iftar and Allah kabul eylesin. Thank you very much.
Amen.
If you don't know it, if you didn't understand anything because we speak in English, again, write in Turkish and we'll translate it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good
Thank you.
evening, guys.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, all.